The Pentagon says US commitment to Taiwan is rock solid against the threat posed by China. US commitment to the island nation comes after a recent spate of Chinese military flights off the coast of Taiwan, Chinese jets and Xi Jinping's push for reunification have raised tensions in the region. Pentagon's press secretary John Kirby says the US remains aligned with Taiwan. The United States has accused China of attempting to intimidate its neighbors, including Taiwan. Kirby says China's actions are destabilizing and only increasing the risk of miscalculation.
PRC has stepped up efforts to intimidate and pressure Taiwan and other allies and partners, including increasing their military activities conducted in the vicinity of Taiwan, the East China Sea, and the South China Sea, which we believe are destabilizing and only increase the risk of miscalculation. Our support for and defense relationship with Taiwan remains aligned against the current threat posed by the People's Republic of China, and we urge Beijing to honor its commitment to the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences as delineated in the three communiques.
Washington's long-standing policy has been to provide political and military support for Taiwan, while not explicitly promising to defend it from a Chinese attack. Though the US has no bases on Taiwan, American officials confirmed recently that special forces have been training with the Taiwan military for more than a year, including maritime operations with Marine commandos in recent weeks. China, meanwhile, has stepped up its military aggression in the South China Sea. In recent weeks, the Chinese Air Force has carried out its biggest incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Chinese fighter jets and nuclear bombers have been testing Taiwan's defenses. In turn, Taiwan too deployed its fighters and missiles, raising the risk of a confrontation. Recently, Chinese President Xi Jinping vowed to achieve peaceful reunification with Taiwan. Meanwhile, China's military carried out beach landing and assault drills in the province directly across the sea from Taiwan. In turn, Taiwan's president vowed never to bow to Beijing and promised to defend the nation against any assault. The United States says while it follows the One China policy, Washington takes no position over the sovereignty of Taiwan.
We act in accordance with the One China policy, and we've long abided by that policy. And it's distinct from Beijing's One China principle, under which the Chinese Communist Party asserts sovereignty over Taiwan. We take no position over the sovereignty of Taiwan. On sovereignty over Taiwan. We will continue to support a peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues consistent with the wishes and best interests of the people of Taiwan, and our commitment to Taiwan is rock solid and contributes to the maintenance of peace and stability across the strait and within the region.
Incursions by the Chinese Air Force are one piece of a complex puzzle in Asia, where the United States and its allies have stepped up their naval maneuvers. And Australia announced last month it is acquiring nuclear-powered submarines in a deal seen as a direct challenge to Beijing. Meanwhile, Japan has grown increasingly vocal about China becoming a security threat. WION correspondent Patrick Falk is joining us live from Beijing for more on this story. Patrick, the US says it stands with Taiwan in the face of Chinese aggression. How have Chinese Communist Party officials reacted to this statement by the Pentagon?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because China has responded, and not for the first time, saying that its actions are to promote peace and stability. It's said that time and time and again, but you have to say that the moves that we've seen in recent days do seem to be contrary to that, in particular the air incursions that we've seen just over a week ago. More than 150 planes making incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone, as you've mentioned, and also these beach landings and assault drills that were taking place in Fujian province just on Monday, according to the PLA. I mean, these sorts of things don't seem to suggest that China is trying to maintain peace in the way that it's describing, certainly, but it says that its actions are just and says that its actions are aimed at targeting separatist forces and forces that are colluding with foreign entities as well, that being a veiled accusation towards Taiwan's operations together with the US. And China also has said that the DPP is hyping up military threats and has said that it is trying to invert right from wrong. So, I mean, a lot of people will look at this and say, does China's words really have the sort of credibility that it wants?
Now, Ma Xiaoguang, spokesperson of the CPC's Taiwan Affairs Office, has issued a grave warning to Taiwan. The official says talks of independence will bring disaster to the people of Taiwan. This is a very serious warning in contrast to President Xi Jinping, who just a few days ago spoke of a peaceful reunification. What caused this change of tone?
Well, that change in tone is, one of the things that was particularly interesting about President Xi Jinping's remarks just a few days ago. Reports had suggested that the language was softer than some of the remarks we've seen on Taiwan previously from the Chinese president. But, you have to bear in mind, again, this was happening just a few days after those massive air incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone. So it is a little bit like saying, you have an option here: either submit to China or the campaign of pressure is going to be raised, or potentially even China might strike at Taiwan. That is possibly the message that is trying to send, and a lot of people would say that is exactly what it is. So, there always has been this kind of slightly ambiguous message, and that is, I suppose, part of the psychological warfare against Taiwan that China is trying to create.
And Beijing defended incursions by its Air Force jets into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. What are the reasons given by the CPC, and aren't actions by the PLA raising tensions in the region?
Well, a lot of people would say they certainly are raising tensions, as we heard from the Pentagon. These sorts of actions, this campaign of pressure on Taiwan is going to raise the chances of miscalculation and possibly an unintended fight. And, some people would even go as far as questioning whether or not that is the sort of scenario that Beijing is possibly trying to engineer out of this. China talks about wanting a peaceful reunification. But again, from the actions that we've seen, particularly in the past week or so, it would seem that China certainly is prepared to take Taiwan by force if necessary. And we've heard Xi Jinping say that this is a historical task and the reunification of the motherland must be done. It must be fulfilled. So it would certainly seem to suggest that China would be willing to go down that route if it felt the need to do so.
Thank you, Patrick Fock, for your insight and for joining us. Moving on now,